Good afternoon, all students. Today we will discuss about to the unit 2 is understanding the business function. It is a complex topic which is working with this human computer interfaces. And first is what is the name of this understanding the business function. Basically, we have to find out what kind of requirement analysis are there, what kind of process are there. So we will discuss about all these things into this topic. So let's start. So understand the business function, that is our topics today's topic. And first is business definition and the requirement analysis. And business definition means we have to define the business in the three different methods. First is direct methods. We have to discuss the communicate the directly, and indirect method we are using the third party, and we have to communicate with the indirect mode. And that is third one is the requirement guidelines. And in this requirement guidelines, basically what kind of collection are there, what kind of guidelines are follows. And next one is the determining the basic business function. We have to identify what are the basic function we have to use. And in this basic business function we have discussed about to developing the conceptual models. Conceptual second one is the understand the mental models, and the users the new mental model. So if you are as using any human computer interfaces, basically we have to first identify what type of concept are there, what type of human are mentally models are there, and we create the new mental model according to these previous two. Next step of this understanding the business function, basically to design standard or style guidelines. So we have to find out which type which design, which value of guidelines are there, what are the document design are there, and also using the design support and the implementation. Next is the final phases in this business function is basically it is a training, and training about that particular models which we have to develop, and the documentation of this model which is which is given information about that particular model, how to use it, just like to user guidelines of any electronics devices, and so on. So what are the direct method which is using for to requirement gathering? So first is individual face to face. Individual face to face interview means we have to interview one by one, one on one, just like I am taking the interview of to you, and I am discussing with you students. Okay, so that is one on one visited with the user to obtain the information. Okay, so it may be structured or somewhat open-ended. So that is open-ended, any person given the opinion about to the any model. Second one, if we are not one-to-one phases, we have to using the telephone interview or survey, structured interview conducted by telephone, just like there is a survey of given of 10 to 15 questions, and I have to ask that 10 to 15 question answer from your side. So that is the telephonic interview. Traditional focus group. Traditional focus group just like to a small group of users, which is a group of users and a moderator brought together to verbally discuss the requirements. Okay, that is a some group are there which is have a user which is together, they have to discuss about to the requirement. Facilitate team workshop. A facilitate structured workshop held with the users to obtain requirements information similar to the traditional focus group. Okay, next one is the observational field study. We are using to users to observe and monitored for an extended time to learn what they do. Just like to if they are given to the some timeline and to observe about that particular product. So that is observational field study. Next is user interface prototyping. Basically a demo or very early prototype is presented to users for comments concerning functionality. Okay, so that is just like we have to create the prototype about that particular thing, just like we create a new big building, that just we have to using the small prototype. Okay, and we have to taking this prototype information from the user's point of view. So that also the using for the requirement gathering. Usability laboratory testing. If we are using users at work are observed, evaluated and measured in the specially constructed laboratory. If we are just like uh, in the COVID-19 scenarios, that is basically first we have to observe and evaluate about what are the outcome of this vaccine. So it is measured for the specially constructed laboratory. Card sorting for the websites as techniques to establishing grouping of information from the website. अगर हम if we are talking about to the techniques which is established for the grouping of information for the website point of view. Next is the important thing is like a indirect method. So indirect method is basically we have not directly communicate with this the person. We have to using the third party, using the another things are there, just like if we are talked with each other with the other person. So that is indirect method. First is MIS intermediate, a company management information system, that is representative, define the user's goal and need to design and develop. So that is using for the MIS. MIS means management information system, which is the some of the person are representative, which is define the what kind of goals and needs of designer. Paper surveyor questionnaires. Surveyor questionnaires means of just like given a 10 to 15 question on the paper and just to go into the and survey to the public and survey to the person. So questionnaire are administered to sample of user using traditional mail method to obtain their needs. Okay. Electronic survey, just like Google form. A survey or questionnaire investigates the example of users using email or on the web to obtain the needs. So just like the paper survey, the same like the electronic survey. In the paper survey, just we are using that on paper and then take just like good, very good, excellent, poor. Same like as electronic survey. Electronic focus group is basically the group which is the discuss about to the requirement online. In the previous one, that same group is are there. That is we are working on the offline field. Okay. Marketing and sales, these are the very good things are there. The company representatives who regularly meet customer obtain suggestion on needs currently and potential, just like some of the marketing managers are there and they interact with the customer on the daily basis, on the weekly basis, on the half yearly basis. So that is also given the suggestion to the customer, given suggestion to the manager. Support line, information collected by the unit that will help customer with day-to-day problem with analyzed. Customer support, technical support, help decks, etc. are the using for the support line. Just like the hotline is if we are using for any customer care. Email or bulletin board. So problems, questions, and the suggestion from the user posted to the bulletin board or through email are analyzed. If the user analyzed about that particular product and they're given information or email to the some other person. So user group improvements are suggested by the customer groups who convey periodically to discuss software uses. Okay. Competitor analysis means a review of competitor product, or just like there are the two product are there, just like into the online cab booking sites Uber and Ola. So they are two are the competitor and one competitor is taking the another competitor profile, another characteristics, another information. So use for gather the ideas. So uncover design requirement and identifying the task. Trade show, customer at a trade show are represented a mock-up or prototype and ask for the comments. Okay. Other media analysis, analysis of how other media, print, broadcast represent the process, information or subject matter of the interest. System testing, new requirement and the feedback are obtained from the ongoing product testing are there using for the system testing. Next one is there are some requirement gathering methods, direct or indirect method. Direct method we have to communicate with it directly, and indirect method we have communicate with the indirect mode. So how to determining the basic business function? The first is we have to just if we want to if we want to develop any program, any C program, just we have to first that create a flow chart. Flow chart of the major function is developed, and flowchart means what are the process are going from one point to the another point. So the process the developer will summarize as follows: gain a complete understanding of the user's mental model based upon the user's need and the user's profile. So in the SCI field we have to working with the user's need and the user's profile. So what are the users, what are the requirement of the users, and what are the profile of the user. Requirement means what their users want. Profile, what kind of users are there, just like moderate, intermediate and the expert users. After that the complete understanding of the user's mental model. Mental model means the user's thinking model. Okay. So develop a conceptual model of the system based upon the user's mental model. If we identify what kind of users are child, adult or aged, or users mental model, yeah, beginners, yeah, intermediate or the expert. So develop a conceptual model. Before that, identifying that what are the users task analysis and what are the users need and profile. So if we develop a conceptual model of the system based upon the user's mental model, so what are the some of the things are included. First is defining objects. Defining object means what kind of objects are there, okay, what kind of we have to using that particular object. And developing metaphors means what are the another name of that particular function, that is called the metaphors. Next is design the standards or the style guides. What kind of design standard are there? Document design. Then after that, design support and implementation. Next is system training and the documentation needed. These are the some process which we are using for to create a conceptual model. Okay. So of how to understand the user's mental model, how to identify the user's mental model. So mental model is basically is an internal representation of the person current conceptualization and understanding of something. Okay, means what are the thinking process of particular users. If we said another way, so mental models are gradually developed in order to understand, explain, and do something. Okay, so mental models enable a person to predict the action necessary to do things if the action have been forgotten or have not yet been encountered. Okay, so first is thing in this understanding of the user's mental model. First is performing a task analysis. So task analysis means user, what kind of task we have to perform by the users. So user activities are precisely described in a task analysis. So task analysis involve breaking down the user's activities to the individual task level. So the goal is to obtain an understanding of why and how people currently do the things that will be automated. So task analysis provide information concerning workflows, okay, the interrelation between people, object and the action, and the user's conceptual frameworks. Okay. The output of a task analysis is a complete description of all user tasks and the interaction. So if we using our task analysis is listening to the user's current task, this list should be well documented and maintained. Okay. Changes in task requirement can be easily incorporated in design iteration occurs. So if we talked about to the any software prototyping model, there are so many models are there where we have to using the iteration. So another result is a list of objects the user sees as important of what they do. So the object can be sorted into the following categories. First is concrete object. Things can be that can be touched. People who are object of sentence, normally organization, employees, customer, for example. Form or journals, things that keep track of information. People who are subject to the sentence, normally the users of a sentence. Abstract object, anything not included the above. Next is how to develop a conceptual model. If we know about to the mental model, then using this mental model, we have to create the conceptual model. So conceptual model means it is the conceptual framework through which the system function are presented. Just like if we are using, if we are create a factorial program, okay. If we are develop a factorial program, so first we identify the logic of that factorial. So the concept of this factorial, factorial 5 is equals to factorial 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1. So that is basically the concept. In the above this, whatever the syntax are there, that is basically what are the need of that. So these are the mental model. Okay. So conceptual framework through which the system functions are presented. Okay, function are presented. What kind of function or what kind of logic are there? Such a model describe how the interface will present the object, the relationship between object, the properties of the object, and the action that will be performed. So conceptual model is based on the user's mental model. Since the term mental model refer to the person current level of the knowledge about the something, people will always have them. So some mental model are influenced by the person experience and people have different experience. No two users mental models are likely to the exactly the same. Different person have a different mental model are there. The goal of designer is to facilitate for the users the development of the useful mental model of the system. This is accomplished by presenting the users a meaningful model of the system. Okay. So what are the guideline for designing conceptual model? First guideline is that reflect the user's mental model, not the designer. So in this in that conceptual model, it's basically it's basically reflect the user's point of view, not the designer point of view. So all these things are represented into the according to the users. And next is draw physical analogies or present metaphors. What kind of different metaphors are you using? Comply with expectancies, habit, routine, and stereotypes. Provide action response compatibility. Make invisible part and process of system visible, and provide proper and correct feedback. That is the important things are there. And if we are not using that correct feedback, so not we have to we will not design that particular any good interface. Avoid anything unnecessary or irrelevant. Provide design in consistency. Also provide documentation and help system that will reinforce the conceptual model, and promote the development of both novice and the expert mental model. Next is how to defining the object. So all object means that show something, that any entity that can be manipulated to get work done. Describe the object used in the task. What kind of object used in the task? Object behavior and the characteristics that differentiate each kind of the object. What are the relationship between the object and how they are performed, and how the action are performed in this object, and the object or which action are applied, and the state information or attribute of each object in the task must be preserved, display, or allowed to be edited. So identifying the object, identifying the action, which action are performed onto the which object. So these are the some workflow are there. So make the several most important object very obvious and easy to manipulate. How to develop the metaphor? So metaphor means choose an analogy that works best for each object and its action. Just like use real world metaphors. If we are using real world metaphors, simple metaphors, common metaphors, multiple metaphors may coexist. Use major metaphors even you can't exactly replicate them visually, and test and selected the metaphors. Okay. So how the user's new mental model is basically created from the user's task analysis and user need and expectation. So when the system is implemented, a person interact with the new system and its interface. An attempt will be made by the person to understand the system based upon the existing mental model brought to the interaction. If the designer had correctly reflected the user's mental model in design, the user's mental model is reinforced and the feeling that his interface is intuitive will likely be developed. Okay. So what happens? If the new system does not accurately reflect the user existing model, then the result includes breakdown in understanding the confusion. It's create the confusion, it's create the error, loss or trust, and the frustration are there. When system designer have known in advance there was a gap between their conceptual model and the mental model the user would bring to the new system, designer have tried to bridge this gap through extensive documentation and the training. So design standard or style guidelines. So what kind of standard follows? Given some framework standard, we have to put in that particular logic. So design standard or style guide document can agreed upon way of doing something. So in interface design, it describes the appearance and behavior of the interface, and the provide some guidance on the proper use of the system component. So that is the also we can say that the if we have a standard, according to that standard we have to follow that guidelines. Okay. It also defines the standards, rule, guideline, convention that must be followed in detailed design. So it will be based on the characteristics of the system hardware and the software, and the principle of the good interface. We already know that what kind of principle are there, and screen design and need to the systems users. Okay. So what kind of value of standard of the guidelines? So basically it's developing and applying design standard guideline, achieving design consistency. This is valuable to the users because the standard and the guidelines. So how? So that first is using allow the faster performance, reduce the errors, reduce training time, faster better system utilization, improve satisfaction, improve system acceptance. They are valuable to the system developer also, that increase visibility of the human computer interface, simplify design, provide more programming design aids, reduce redundant effort, reduce training time, provide a benchmark for quality control testing. Just like if we are using for example, if we develop any Java program and we have already know about that, what are the style are there, what are the guidelines are there. So that is very good for both of them, users point of view and also the as well as to the developers point of view. Document design, finally, that is the checklist to present principle and the guidelines. So provide a rationale for why the particular design should be used, provide a rationale describing the condition under which various design alternative are appropriate, include the concrete example of the current design, and design the guidelines document following a recognized principle of the good current design. So provide good access mechanism such as through index, a table of content, glossary, and the checklist. Just like to any book, there is all these things are included into the that front page. Just like table of content, groceries, and objective. What are the object are there? What are the audience are there? So basically, that is the design process of your conceptual model. What are the content included into this document design? Checklist and rational means provide checklist for presenting key principle and the guidelines. Checklist permit easy in scanning, easy in referring to the key points, and make a document more reliable and breaking up the long sequence of the text. Understanding the reasoning will increase the guide acceptance, and it may not be easy for the designer to infer, and various alternatives are appropriate. Next is concrete examples. There are some example are there. To be effective, guideline must include make concrete example of the correct design. So learn by the imitation is often way to we learn. Document design and access. Always design the document, be it paper or electronic, by following recognized principle of a good document design. This greatly enhance readability, and unattractive or hard to use document will not be in writing and consequently will not be used. Last is design support and implementation. So basically in this topic, basically use all available resources source in creating the guideline, use development and implementation tools that support the guidelines, begin applying the guidelines immediately. So available reference resources, use all the available reference design source in creating your guidelines. Web design created by the companies such as Apple, IBM, Microsoft, and the Sun also are using other references source that meet your needs also be utilized. Tools, what kind of tools are there? That is basically the software tools which you have using for any implementation purpose. Use tool to support implementation of the guidelines. You have to establish development tools, make the design process much easier. Applying the guidelines. So two questions often asked: it is too late to develop and implement its standard, and what will be the impact of system and screen now being used? Okay. So address these questions, researcher reformatted in several alphanumeric inquiries, 6 screen to improve their comprehensibility and the readability. Next is that finally that the system implementation and testing is done, and after that we have to provide the training about that particular product. So training and documentation also the integral part of the development effort. Training means we have to train about that particular product, how to use and which condition and which action are performed. So different condition have a different actions are there. So different formulas are there. Different just like in the Excel, Microsoft Excel, different formulas are there. Different actions are there. We have things, so many things are into the Excel. So system training will be based on users need. If we are a system, if the user is intermediate, that we have to just provide to the information. System conceptual design, system learning goals, and system performance goals. Training may include such tools as formal or video training manuals, online tutorials, reference manual, quick reference guide, and online help. Needs must be established and training component developed as the design process unfolds. This will ensure that the proper kind of training are there, defined properly, integrated with the design and developed correctly. This will also assure the design is not imposing to learning and training requirement on the users. Documentation of all the documentation about that particular product. System documentation is a reference point, form of communication, and a more concrete design are there, words that can be seen and understood. So it will also be based on the user's need, system conceptual design, and the system performance goal. So basically it's creating the documentation during the development progress will uncover issues and reveal omission that might not otherwise be detected until later in the design process. So as with training, any potential problem can be identified, can be and addressed earlier in the design process, again reducing later problem and the modification cost. So in the documentation, all the users need and all the conceptual design, and according to that particular what kind of users are there, how to use of this documentation. So it's provided by the business function. So today's we will discuss about that business function. Basically, first is the requirement gathering, and we have to using the requirement gathering direct method or indirect method. Second one is to understanding the user's mental model. After that, understanding in the user's mental model, we have to find out what a user's need and task analysis are there, needs and profile. And third one is to users create a user's conceptual model, defining metaphor, defining object, defining action. And next is we have to find out the new user mental model. Then we have to uh, follow the design standard guidelines, and then system implementation, and then training and the documentation. So these are the five different phases are there for the understanding any business function. So if you have any query and just ask on this topic, and my mail id is guptapradeep@akgec.ac. Thank you very much.